各位线上的朋友，大家好，欢迎收看太极门1219事件平反第14周年全民开讲。25年太极门人权迫害案，彰显政府违反宪法及国际人权2公约所保障的基本人权，引起国际人权专家之关注与声援。2公约国际审查小组在102年来台湾审查国家人权报告时，更特别询问太极门税务案件状况。知名的意大利宗教学家马西莫·因特罗维吉教授也投入关心太极门冤案，并将太极门案写入《寒冬》杂志。寒冬是一本以关注全球宗教信仰人权状况而知名的杂志。马西莫·因特罗维吉撰写台湾太极门案白皮书，被抹煞的正义，也出版一本《寒冬选集》，深入探讨太极门案。他更指导影片《正义问题》，以台湾太极门税案为例，并于109年11月19日在美国国务院举办的第3届促进宗教自由部长级会议的周边会议中进行全球首映。马西莫·因特罗维吉更专程自意大利飞往美国华盛顿，参加110年12月7日国际记者会，揭露太极门案之宗教信仰自由迫害。我们就来看下面这段影片。正义问题，以太极门税案为例。
A question of justice. The Taijimen tax case in Taiwan. Taiwan is known as a beacon of democracy in a region plagued by dictators. Yet, in 2020, thousands took to the streets to protest serious violations of human rights on the island. They were members of Taijimen, a Taiwanese spiritual movement based on esoteric Taoism. It promotes a holistic development of mind and body, rooted in the practice of Qigong, including teachings about martial arts and other traditional techniques. Thousands of Taijimen members regularly bring culture to the world through events that have been praised by political authorities, both internationally and in Taiwan. Taijimen Qigong Academy was founded in 1966 by Dr. Hong Daozi, who is also well known throughout the world for his promotion of world peace and dialogue between religions and cultures.
I could see Taijimen having a very, very positive effect for Taiwanese society.
Dr. Hong's path as a spiritual teacher has not been easy. Religious liberty is something Taiwan has achieved through a bumpy road only. In 1996, largely for political reasons, the government cracked down on religious and spiritual movements, accused of supporting opposition political parties. The campaign also targeted Taijimen, although it had not taken political sides. On December 19, 1996, Taijimen facilities were raided, and Hong was arrested. He and his wife's assets, including private holdings not connected with Taijimen, were frozen. These actions were carried out upon orders of Taipei court prosecutor Ho Quan-ren, who developed a personal vendetta against Hong and Taijimen, and was later recognized by Taiwan's Control Yuan, the body entrusted with checking illegal activities by public officials. Prosecutor Ho promoted a self-help association of so-called victims of Taijimen, which was found by the Taipei District Court to be a false organization whose leaders had created bogus claims. The court also found that there were no victims. On April 15, 1997, Prosecutor Ho indicted Hong, who was freed on bail on May 26th, his wife and 3 Taiji Men members for operating a fraudulent cult. Ho even accused Hong of raising goblins, something which is totally foreign to Taiji Men's practices. From his public statements, it looked like Prosecutor Ho was the one who really believed in goblins. Between April and June 1997, Prosecutor Ho wrote to state and local administrations ordering the dissolution of Taiji Men, and even that water and electricity supplies to Taiji Men facilities in Taipei be cut. The Ministry of the Interior and local governments later annulled these orders and declared them illegal, as no decision had yet been rendered against Hong. In fact, Prosecutor Ho's case eventually collapsed. On September 25, 2003, Dr. Hong and his co-defendants were acquitted of all charges by the Taipei District Court. On December 13, 2005, the High Court of Taipei confirmed on appeal the first-degree verdict favorable to Taiji Men. On July 13, 2007, the Criminal Division of the Supreme Court of Taiwan pronounced the final acquittal of Taiji Men defendants, declaring them innocent of all charges. Compensation for the wrongful detention was given to Hong and his co-defendants. However, a byproduct of Prosecutor Ho's ill-fated actions remained. Instigated by Prosecutor Ho, the National Tax Bureau accused Hong of tax evasion and issued tax bills for the years 1991 through 1996. What was the basis of these claims? As it happens in most spiritual movements, members of Taiji Men, who are called Dizi, offer money as a gift to Hong, whom they recognize as their shifu, or master. These gifts are included in so-called red envelopes. The National Tax Bureau claimed that the content of the red envelopes should not be considered as a gift, but as a tuition fee members pay for receiving training in a so-called cram school, meaning a school where students engage in intensive study of a subject for a short period of time. Gifts are not taxable, while cram schools' tuition fees are. In Taiwan, there are many Qigong and martial arts organizations, and none has ever been taxed for gifts given to their masters. The Ministry of Education in Taiwan, which has direct regulatory authority over cram schools, declared 3 times, from 1997 through 2000, that Taiji Men is not a cram school. Taiji Men is indeed not a cram school. In 1999 and 2000, both Taiwan's finance minister and deputy finance minister publicly stated that since the Taiji Men tax prosecution derived from a criminal case, if Hong and his co-defendants will be acquitted in the criminal court, then the tax claims would be withdrawn as well. However, this did not happen. Hong and his co-defendants were acquitted of all criminal charges. Yet the National Tax Bureau continued to claim that the money in the red envelopes was a disguised cram school tuition fee and maintained the tax bills. Note that the 2007 Supreme Court decision that acquitted Hong and his co-defendants from all criminal charges explicitly stated that they were not guilty of tax evasion. In 2002, following instructions by the Ministry of Finances, the National Tax Bureau conducted a random survey among Taiji Men Dizi to determine whether they regarded their contributions as gifts or tuition fees. All the 206 Dizi who responded indicated that they considered their contributions as gifts. However, the Tax Bureau declared that only 9 respondents had clearly indicated that their contributions were gifts. The statement was false, but the Tax Bureau refused to release the answers to the survey. Based on the Bureau's false statement about the survey, the Ministry of Finances refused to rectify the tax bills against Hong and Taiji Men. They appealed to administrative courts, and Taiwan's Supreme Administrative Court ruled in favor of Taiji Men on August 6, 2009. On July 17, 2010, the manipulation of the survey was exposed at a public hearing in the Legislative Yuan, i.e. Taiwan's parliament. Later, the National Tax Bureau agreed that a new open survey should be carried out. This happened only in 2011, and results were disclosed in 2012, revealing that there had been 7,401 respondents, and all had answered that they regarded the content of the red envelopes as gifts. The National Tax Bureau had promised to be guided by the results of the survey, yet they reacted by proposing to consider 50% of the money received in the red envelopes as gifts and 50% as tuition fees. This was obviously not consistent with the unequivocal results of the survey. Taiji men thus started another long journey through Taiwanese courts, supported by legislators and other public authorities, and by human rights organizations throughout the world. From this long and painful struggle, they emerged victorious. In 2018, the Supreme Administrative Court ruled that the content of the red envelopes should be treated as gifts rather than as tuition fees. The basis of the 20-year persecution of Taiji men by the National Tax Bureau had finally been removed. Unfortunately, this was not the end of Taiji men's tribulations. The National Tax Bureau had initially alleged tax evasion for 6 years, from 1991 to 1996. After the 2018 decision by the Supreme Administrative Court, it agreed to reduce the tax bills for the years 1991, 1993, 1994, 1995, and 1996 to zero. But based on the claim that for 1992, a decision had been rendered by the Supreme Administrative Court in 2006 and was final, it maintained the tax bill for 1992, including interest. Both the Dizi and the public opinion in Taiwan understood that this was a political vendetta after Taiji men had publicly proved the National Tax Bureau wrong. Clearly, what happened in 1992 was not different from what happened in the other years, and justice would have mandated to deal with it in the same way. Patently wrong decisions can always be revised if justice has to be served. The tax authorities treated Taiji men as a cram school and taxed it accordingly. Since the finding of fact was incorrect, the application of law was wrong as well. Therefore, the incorrect court order should not be executed. For example, when you clearly know that a person is wrongfully convicted and sentenced to death, you should not execute the person. You should try to correct the mistake and uphold justice. If the person is killed as per the sentence, then he is unjustly killed by the government. Now that the tax authorities have admitted their mistakes and the criminal court has ordered state compensation, it is unjust for the government to auction the assets of Taiji men's leader. If it does, that is theft of his property. No appeal by Taiwanese or international politicians, scholars, or human rights organizations stopped this vendetta. Not even courts of law were heard. On May 5th and July 23rd, 2020, Taipei High Administrative Court wrote twice to the National Tax Bureau of the Central Area, asking them to treat 1992 as the other years were treated. All this was to no avail. In August 2020, properties belonging to Hong were seized and auctioned, then confiscated after the auction was not successful, despite massive peaceful street protests in Taiwan and appeals by international NGOs. It may seem that this is a battle about money, but it isn't for Taiji men. They spent in legal fees only, in 24 years of struggles, more than they would have paid had they settled with the National Tax Bureau. Insisting on conscience and justice, they did not settle. By settling, they would have admitted that they had been guilty of tax evasion, something that is both against their principles and factual truth. On the other hand, we can suspect that it really was about money for some bureaucrats. In cases of alleged tax evasion, they get a bonus on the tax bills, and some did get the bonus for the 1992 Taiji men tax bill. It is not surprising that scholars and human rights activists from all over the world raised their voice in support of Taiji men. Theirs is not a minor case hanging on technicalities. It has widespread implications, both for Taiwan and the world. Significantly, already in 2005, the Control Yuan had listed the Taiji men case as one of the most important human rights incidents where it had to intervene. Taiwan is in a difficult moment in its history. Taiwan needs international friends, and it also benefits from its well-deserved public image of a country where, unlike in mainland China, human rights and freedom of belief are respected. The Taijimen case is a relic of a bygone era, when religious liberty was still not fully respected in Taiwan. The petty tax vendetta against Taijimen, however, raises doubts on whether the problems of the past have been fully overcome and is detrimental to Taiwan's international image. The fact that Taijimen's properties were seized and auctioned on the eve of the establishment of Taiwan's National Human Rights Commission on August 1st, 2020, was an unfortunate coincidence, which contributed to the impression that the official rhetoric is at odds with the behavior of some rogue bureaucrats. The case has also international implications. It is a perpetual temptation for politicians and others in power to persecute religious and spiritual minorities that they, for whatever reason, do not like through the misuse of the tax system. The European Court of Human Rights is just one among several authorities that have ruled repeatedly that tax bills cannot be used to discriminate against religious and spiritual movements a government does not approve of.
The European Court of Human Rights stated in a ruling in 2011 in the case Association of Jehovah's Witnesses versus France that through its tax administration, France had unduly harassed a group that had been illegitimately put on a blacklist of so-called harmful cults. The court went to explain that monetary offers made by devotees to their spiritual leaders or organizations are obviously gifts. The court concluded that considering donations as taxable payments is a typical way that some governments use and misuse to discriminate against movements that they don't like. But this is illegal under international human rights law.
I think that it is as bad, if not worse, to allow an injustice to continue as it is to create the injustice in the first place. And that is what's happened here with Taijimen.
Taijimen are not fighting for themselves only. They raise a crucial question of justice, freedom of belief, and human rights. In this sense, we are all Taijimen. The injustice perpetrated against them is injustice against all of us. Their victory will be our victory.
《影片最后提到，太极门不仅是为自己而战，他们借此让一个至关重要的议题，即司法、信仰自由和人权浮上台面。所以从这个意义上来说，我们都是太极门，对他们的不公不义，就是对我们所有人的不公正行为。他们的胜利就是我们的胜利。太极门案就是侯宽仁违法违宪、令人匪夷所思的惊天冤案，就是受国家政治迫害长达25年的太极门假案。至今已经没有任何的案子可以比拟这个洪荒大案。前国税局稽核黄坤光先生说，侯宽仁查太极门无现金收入，构陷诈欺不成，又查无罪证，找史月生作伪证，屋子净施礼金为补习班收入课税，另外又用诈欺收入重实入罪，捏造了32亿元的收入，已经明显的违反商业法、所得税法，一税不能两罚。台北国税局也未尽查证的责任，检调国税局违法串联构陷迫害太极门。现在我们来听听黄坤光先生的看法。
法院举办公听会指出违法处，而财政部永若撤销后，竟然独留81年度既不撤销又不更正为0元，而有行政执行署于109年8月将苗栗道馆预定地违法征收为国有。这很明显是检察官调查处国税局串联做出空前绝后之射箭画靶，以虚无收入构陷人民逃漏巨额所得税的开端，更侮辱了我们查审人员的职能，被打回过往贪官酷吏性印象，执政者怎能够充耳不闻？所得税是民主政府生存的最重要血流，不能维持顺畅，就会导致衰亡。我才立即感受到洪师傅与修行人对租税公益的坚持，是为了拯救更多被相同迫害者。太极门25年前被法外治理，是民主法治刚生根发芽的现象。若25年后的民主法治还停留在那里，那就不知道我们的民主法治是怎么了。
黄坤光先生提到，太极门25年前被法外治理，是民主法治刚生根发芽的现象。若25年后的民主法治还停留在那里，那就不知道我们的民主法治是怎么样了。政府行政机关常挂在嘴上的就是依法行政，太极门税案却带头违法，不仅隐匿政绩，更造假说谎话，蒙骗长官，欺凌人民，种种违法滥权情事，再再凸显政府官员急需以民为主、以法为规的迫切。所以我们每个人出自己的一份心力，为了法税改革挺身站出来。心智坚定的我们，总会有成功的一天。谢谢大家。
什么秘密？真相的时光机，谁在欺骗你？变得了的钢琴，滴着水的屋顶，已消失的光阴，谁能倒回去？
孔子说：“子不语怪力乱神。”侯简说的你们确信？没调查，带枪上门抓人入狱，无罪却没人听。没做的事被你说的绘声绘影，良心在哪里？人民在苦海之中哭泣，但你全都当成是放屁。国税是你的兵器，即使法院说没问题，你依然嗤之以鼻，置之不理，自以为是皇帝，草菅人命，逼到绝境，谁能真正伸张正义？蚂蚁拼命，永不放弃一颗炽热丹心，犯错不停，随着轮回，早已失效的行政救济，满载负评，逐渐沦为一场永远没止境的悲剧。不顾程序，伪造文书，倒卖名产，陈情书院不理，别再知错不改，冥顽不灵，为了奖金玩弄命，操纵媒体，借贪权，贪赃法务，不明。正义其实根本不正义。我们还能走去哪里？我们还要坚持真理，要我放弃心中正义 ？No way, no way。我们还能走去哪里？我们还要坚持到底，要我放弃心中正义 ？No way, no way。国税是你的兵器，即使法院说没问题，你依然嗤之以鼻，置之不理，自以为是皇帝，草菅人命， 逼到绝境，谁能真正伸张正义？蚂蚁拼命，永不放弃一颗炽热丹心。犯错不停，随着轮回，早已失效的行政救济，满载负评，逐渐沦为一场永远没止境的悲剧。不顾程序，伪造文书，倒卖名产，曾经出人不理，别再知错不改，冥顽不灵，为了奖金玩弄命，操纵媒体，借贪权，贪赃法无辜无名。正义其实根本不正义，我们还能走去哪里？我们还要坚持真理，要我放弃心中正义 ？No way, no way。我们还能走去哪里？我们还要坚持到底，要我放弃心中正义 ？No way, no way。不管未来路上充满多少的困境，自始至终我们都不曾放弃，捍卫真理，守护家园，我不曾忘记，勇敢坚持到底是我的宿命，要我放弃心中坚持的正义 ，No way, no way, no way。